Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 755 for the 19th of March. We're going to start off with the frontline changes report as usual, and the first frontline change is over at Terny, then we will have like Terny, Orlivka, oh my god, then Pryyutne, and then Verbove. So let's get started. So the first one is at Terny. Terny is over at the Kreminna Front. This is Kreminna city under the Russian control, and this is Terny under Ukrainian control. The Russians are currently attacking Terny, and there is a frontline change based on the geolocation of a video footage of Russian forces attacking towards Terny. And the geolocation is over at this location, which means that the Russian forces have presence in this area here. I did not put this as a capture, I put this as a presence. The reason because we have no idea whether the assault is actually successful. So which means that the Russian forces merely is around here and then they are attacking, signifying the presence. Just like the situation over in the northern part, there is a gray zone because we are not sure if the Russian forces actually captured those areas in the north of this location. The next one is over at Orlivka, over at the Avdiivka Front. This is Avdiivka city. And over at the Avdiivka Front, the Ukrainian mapping Deep State UA continues to update on the daily basis of the Russian forces securing Orlivka. And so this time now they have secured the tree line in the north of Orlivka. And this is, the tree line is actually not Orlivka anymore. It's basically outside of Orlivka, which is why yesterday I've already announced the capture of Orlivka after the Russians captured the rest of these buildings over on the western part of Orlivka. And coincidentally, yesterday the Russian Defense Ministry also announced the capture of Orlivka, and this actually corroborates the situation, the reports by Deep State UA as well as from DPA. So this is the best kind of scenario where everything corroborates. The Ukrainian side says the same thing as what the Russian Defense Ministry says, and as per my analysis based on the changes of the mapping. So fantastic in terms of this situation, in terms of the mapping. I'm not pro-Russian, so no, it's not about the capture. So the next frontline change is over at Pryyutne, over in the most western part of the Donetsk Front. So this is the Velika sector, and Pryyutne is over here. And in the northern part, there is this geolocation of Russian forces bombarding Ukrainian trenches. And the trenches is along these tree lines, or tree forest, whatever you want to call it, and or algae. So but not gay. Algae is not gay. No, Martin, no, it's two different words. So no, it's only the L is gay. No, not M, NOPQRSTUV. Okay, anyway, in the north, so because of this geolocation, they put the Russian claims into doubt. So the Russian actually claimed all the way over here. This is the Russian claim, and the Ukrainian claim is like this. So because of this geolocation, now this area here definitely, most likely, is under Ukrainian control, and this actually puts into question of this entire area. Now, this entire this forest or tree line or tree plantation is now in doubt. I start to have some doubts whether the Russians have captured it. Anyway, it was a Russian claim. I believe it's from Ryba, based on the last information on the 23rd of February. So this was not acknowledged by the Ukrainian side, which is why it's a massive gray zone right here. But with this geolocation, it seems like the Ryba's report might actually be wrong, or they actually knocked out the Ukrainians, but they didn't send in forces to take over the entrenchments. So which is why that we have this kind of situation, because sometimes the Russian side do like to say that they knocked out the Ukrainians, but then they actually never sent troops to take over the position. So it's actually not a capture, which is why this is the gray zone, rightfully so, based on this geolocation. And the last one is over in the Zaporizhzhia Front in the Orlivka sector. This is Orlivka, and this is Orlivka sector, and over at the Verbove region in the northwestern part, there is the Deep State UA claiming that the Ukrainian forces have taken some ground around here. This is based on the map changes. So this is firm control. So the Ukrainian forces have advanced in the northwestern part. However, there is geolocation of Russian forces just over here doing a mine demolition, so demining. So this is a bit weird because geolocation shows Russian forces demining in this area here. However, Ukrainian mapping shows there is this move. So this is actually this is not a capture, this is a claim. So we are going to have this gray zone, this overlapping mapping between the Russian and the Ukrainian mapping. We will continue to monitor and see how this progress. But given the demining is actually this far, this near, is merely just half a kilometer away from the tree line. So it's a bit unusual, I have to say the least. So that's all for the frontline changes report. And so we move into the strategy and tactical reporting. Okay, let's do the Kherson Front first. So for those that are new to this channel, again, I want to say again, I'm breaking up all the different front lines. If you are not interested in certain front line, just skip based on the timestamp. Belgorod, I know some of you guys are interested, is the last one of this entire list. Of course, there's also the popular one in the Avdiivka, which is in the center. So just use the timestamp. Over the Kherson Front, at the Kherson Front, there is still fighting reported in the area, in some beachhead or bridgehead in the southern bank of the Dnieper River, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Not sure exactly where. Geolocation of Ukrainian forces at Dachi confirms that the Ukrainians are still holding on to Dachi area. So this is very interesting. So we will continue to monitor. The Russians don't feel the need to actually capture this area here. Generally speaking, it's also quite pointless to capture that position. So we'll see how this goes, because it's too near to Kherson, that's the city. So yeah, it is not that easy to hold that position for the Russian forces if they choose to do that. Over in the Zaporizhzhia Front, this is Zaporizhzhia, and this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. And over the Zaporizhzhia Front, the Russian forces continue their attack in the Kayamsky sector as well as the Orlivka sector, with fighting reported at Pyatikaki this time. Over at Robotyne, Ukrainian forces counter-attack as per the frontline changes report. So over at the northwestern part of Verbove, there is not much news regarding this area here. So I don't think there's anything exciting coming out from this area here. There is, of course, some information coming out, I think, from the pro-Russian side, or maybe it's the Ukrainian side, I'm not sure, claiming that there's some heavy casualties in the counter-attack in the Robotyne region, like I think 40 or 60 guys, and then left with like 5 guys or something like that. I forgot. And I'm not sure if the counterattack when was that, So it could be during the last year's major counteroffensive. So don't. I just saw something, so I just tell you, but don't take too much mind into it. I just saying something that I saw. Over in the Donetsk Front, so this is the Donetsk Front, and this is the Velika sector, the Voleda sector, and then the Marinka sector. So generally speaking, there is no fighting being reported in the Pryyutne region. The Russian forces and Ukrainian forces clash at Staromayorsky. Russian forces attacking at Uruzhaine, if I'm not wrong. And so because I need to zoom in to see. Okay, let me zoom in. Yeah, correct. So Russian forces are attacking towards Vodian as well. There is clashes at Novomikhailivka, according to the Ryba. Russian forces got pushed out in the southern part of Novomikhailivka. We'll talk about it a little more later. Fighting reported at Georgievka as well as Krasnohorivka. So this is the strategic situation over this sector. There's nothing much to really cover about the Velika sector already, because I already covered the Pryyutne region. There's no information about the Staromayorsky region. Don't have anything about that. But the Uruzhaine is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, as well as Staromayorsky. So this attack looks very coordinated, and but we shall continue to monitor, because the Ukrainians are being reported to be attacking at Staromayorsky, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. I'm not sure this will lead to anything, because there's always fighting being reported here, but always end up with no frontline change. North of Volodymyrivka, there is a Russian airstrike using the FAB bombs, the FAB bombs, fat bombs because they never go to gym, never exercise. You see, just like me, getting fatter. So the fat bombs are bombing the Ukrainian armed forces at near Solotki. Solotki is over here. It's actually nearer to Volodymyrivka. So anyway, any Ukrainian forces actually getting ordered to guard this area must be very sad, because this is basically almost a salient, very far away from the major towns and strongholds. So it's really secluded. In Chinese we call this the place where the birds do not lay egg. So anyway, over at the Marinka sector, the Russian forces attacking at Krasnohorivka, Georgievka, and Novomihailivka. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Novomihailivka. And in this area here, Ryba made a very interesting report. They say, okay, I didn't add it in. They said that the Russian forces got pushed out in the southern part. But they still have a strong position within Novomihailivka. I have no freaking idea what is this supposed to mean. They did not show any mapping as well. So I can't tell what do they actually mean. So we will continue to monitor and see how this progress. In the north of Novomihailivka, airstrike on the on the Ukrainian forces, again by the fat bombs. And so that's all for the Novomihailivka. At Georgievka, there is geolocation of Krasnopol. Krasnopol, I think, is an artillery system. I can't remember. I think it's an artillery system. So yeah, on the western part of Georgievka. And then over at the Krasnohorivka, there's some news. Ukrainian forces actually is geolocated to be counter-attacking over in the northern part, and they clashed in this area here. Give me a minute. So forgot to close my Steam. The notification is very irritating. So anyway, so there is some clashes in this area here, and the fact that the geolocation of the fighting, or basically the front line, is actually over here, shows that the Russians actually do have some presence in this area here. So, but this is a gray zone. So because there's an overlapping mapping, so we'll continue to look at it as such. But this geolocation actually do acknowledge that the Russians are indeed in this region here. So somewhat of a corroboration. But because we also have a firm confirmation of Russian control in this area here, just that the rest of this area is gray zone. So it doesn't really change the front line based on this geolocation. We'll definitely prefer to have more information before we make commit to any frontline change in the Krasnohorivka region. And the Russians continue to fab to Krasnohorivka. Fabbing Krasnohorivka. Yeah, they fab to it. Fabbing, drop the bomb. Anyway, over at the Avdiivka Front, this is Avdiivka city, and the Russian forces continue to press on the Ukrainians over at Berdyansk, Orlivka, Tonenki. They are also attacking Pervomaisky as well as Nevelsky region. Ukrainian forces counterattack at Berdyansk, Orlivka, I believe. Yeah, let me see. Did they counterattack? Oh, no. Cancel last. So cancel last. Let me see how to cancel last. Okay. So the Ukrainians did not counterattack Orlivka. They got pushed out of Orlivka because the Russians captured it. Ukrainian forces counterattack Tonenki and Pervomaisky. So this is the strategic situation over at the Avdiivka Front. And particularly, we have to talk about Orlivka. Yesterday, I've announced the capture of Orlivka, actually kind of ahead of everyone else, because based on the Deep State US mapping, it seems like no, it is a capture already, because all of the settlement buildings have already been captured by the Russian forces, and immediately it was acknowledged by the Russian Defense Ministry. So in the Russians yesterday's report, they actually mentioned the so-called liberation of Orlivka, and so this actually confirms also by Ryba as well. So Ukrainian mapping, Ukrainian side did not acknowledge this capture yet, but Deep State US mapping basically effectively shows that Orlivka is under Russian control. And over at the Tonenki situation remains the same. This very weird salient around here. However, there is geolocation of Russian using rocket artillery on the Ukrainian forces in this northern part of Tonenki, or northwestern part in the Dacha region. So Dacha are holiday houses, summer houses, and over at Berdyansk, just off Semenivka, there was FPV drone strike on a Bradley vehicle, if I'm not wrong. The footage is very blurred, but it seems like a silhouette of the Bradley. But although the Crimean military summary claimed that it was destroyed, I can't really tell, because the drone footage was cut before it hits. So nobody, I can't really acknowledge that the fact that the Bradley was destroyed. I'm not exactly sure a FPV drone have the firepower to just destroy like anywhere it hits. So I will not just acknowledge that. So that's all from the Avdiivka front. There's nothing over the New York front, and we move on to the Bakhmut front. In the Bakhmut front, we have the usual fighting reported at Bodanivka, Ivanivsky. This is reported by Ryba. Only Ryba mentioned about the fighting over here. Ukrainian Defense Ministry did not. Fighting is reported at Klishevka, the usual. Nothing at Indrievka, Kudyumivka, or Zaranivka. However, we do have the Ukrainian Defense Ministry dropping the name of Pryyutne, which is here, and Belgorod. So I'm not sure how the Russian forces actually reached there, because if you read the actual wordings, they said that their soldiers repelled 6 enemy attacks in the area of the settlements of Pryyutne, Klishevka, Belgorod of the Donetsk Oblast. So how the Russian forces reached there? Did the Russian force... So no, if you have to believe this in a very literal sense, then if you look at the southern flank in the Bakhmut front, we have to believe that the Russian forces have captured Indrievka. They have actually progressed south of Klishevka and probably taking most of this canal region, attacking towards this direction towards Pryyutne, as well as attacking across the canal towards Belgorod. Then that makes sense. So tentatively, no, I can't really believe this is the case, because there is totally no celebration on the Russian side about any capture of Andriivka or any breakthrough or breakout from Kudyumivka region. So yeah, just take this with a pinch of salt. Yeah, if you need some salt, I get some to sell you over here in Soledad. They sell really good salt. So very salty. In the northern part of the Bakhmut front, there is fighting being reported. Just all across to the Siversk Front. According to Ryba, so Ryba's report say that the Ukrainian forces conducted reconnaissance by combat through the Rozdolivka Orikovo-Vasilivka line, which means is Rozdolivka, Orikovo-Vasilivka, and this line. They're claiming that the Ukrainians are conducting reconnaissance by combat. So what's reconnaissance by combat is basically you send troops out on a patrol, try to find where's the enemy, and your intention is to get into contact with the enemy and fight with them. By fighting with them, you know that the enemy is there. That's the reconnaissance by combat. So we're not sure exactly where. They use a very vague statement, like calling this entire front line, which is rather long, from Orikovo-Vasilivka all the way to Rozdolivka is like 19 kilometers. That's a very long front line. So I'm not sure where is it. So no, just take this with a pinch of salt. And since we are talking about Rozdolivka, in the Siversk front, the Russian Defense Ministry mentioned about them attacking Ukrainian forces at Rozdolivka as well. So something to note. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported about fighting at Terny and further up north over at Belgorod as well. So this is the Russian attacks. Ukraine attacking in this way. So we will continue to monitor. This is the Siversk front. Interesting, Terny was mentioned again. The previous time was from the 6th to the 11th, and then it seems like the Russians failed to make much breakthrough, so they gave up, and then now they are back again. So we shall continue to monitor. Over the Kreminna Front, this already covered in the frontline changes report. The Russian forces are attacking at Terny. It resulted in some kind of possible frontline change. So we will continue to monitor and see how this goes. And further up north, there is nothing over at the Verbove front. Over the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, there is only one report about Russians attacking at Sinkivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. And that's about it. There is nothing over at the Tabaivka, Kaislivka region. So yeah, so that's all from the Kupyansk Front. And Belgorod Front. At the Belgorod Front, we have some fighting reported at Kozinka. According to Ryba, they say this is today's report, the latest report. They say that as of 1 p.m. Local time, the Ukrainian forces are still attacking at Kozinka. And the target is they are moving towards this church over here, the Temple of Apostle and Evangelist John. I think it's John. Sorry, yeah, it's John. So they are heading down this street. However, this street is very toxic because there is Russian fat bombs. The Russians are fabbing, at these Ukrainian forces, and spill a lot of things out. I mean blood. And then the Crimean capitalist Joe located FPV drone strike at Ukrainian forces. So there's two strikes already, and this is probably the trigger for Ryba to report this as such. And then the Ryba also by this point they also say that the Ukrainian forces eventually got knocked out. So sorry. So the reports of the Ukrainian attack was on the 19th. On the 19th. Sorry, where's my icon? I lost the icon. Oh, it's over here. Ryba reported about this fighting towards the church on the 19th, and on today's report at 1 p.m., the forces has been already totally kicked out of Kozinka. And this actually feels like a report is slow, because if you look at the statement coming out from the Russian Defense Ministry on the 19th of March, they say that there is no more Ukrainian forces in the border. So there's no incursion being reported. Instead, the report at the Belgorod Front was that the Russian forces are carrying out measures to prevent sabotage and reconnaissance group of the Ukrainians from entering the border region, which means that there is no Ukrainian forces in Russia. So, and what they do is that they use airstrike and artillery against Ukrainian forces near Kozinka. So the Ryba's reporting about the Ukrainian attack on the 19th might be actually delayed by 1 day at least. So which is why by the 20th, the information, which is today's report, seems to suggest that the Ukrainian forces are kicked out of Kozinka. So this is interesting, I would say. And there is also at Voschansk, there is some artillery strike. So the video footage for this strike is very interesting because it is just one explosion, but it doesn't feel big enough to be an airstrike. And this is something that I've take note as I was watching all these geolocations videos. And sometimes, most of the time, I'm lazy to upload. But the thing is that these artillery strikes are pinpoint accurate. It seems like all these artillery shells are actually GPS guided. So these are actually guided shells. So the fact that it's so accurate doesn't feel very Russian. Our perception of Russian artillery is always very inaccurate. They go for quantity over quality, kind of, like not so pinpoint, but they shoot many of them. So, but recently, the artillery strike seems to be rather accurate, and one artillery shell hitting one house, like pinpoint. They have a surveillance drone, detected the Ukrainian forces or enemy activities within the house or entering the house, and then they call in an artillery strike and pinpoint accurate. And it seems like this is becoming more and more widespread on the Russian side. It could indicate a possibility that the Russians have introduced the GPS guided artillery shell into the front line in more or no higher numbers, and so this would also signify a possible switch in terms of doctrines on the Russian side, because they used to just do heavy bombardments with dumb shells. So yeah, we probably will see more. And definitely something that I suggest you guys who are monitoring the war very closely to take note, to see if this is true. And this is the summary for the day of 755 for the 19th of March. Do press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.